Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AI for Anyone Live. I am here solo today. So excited to be here with you. You are joining us here on AI for Anyone Live, the weekly show from the Human Stack, where we make AI accessible and actionable for nonprofits and social impact organizations. I'm Sammy Zoss. And like I said, Tim Lockey, CEO and chief lead at the Human Stack, is not here today. He is at the Good Tech Summit in DC this week. So you've got me flying solo today. He told me to tell you he's ready when I am. So I'm taking that as permission. Today, we're building on the playbook that we made last week. 4 steps. Well, we're building the playbook. We sort of talked about it last week. The 4 steps you get right as a workflow before you ever let AI run on its own. We're going to teach it and then we're going to build it live in Gemini. And if we have some time, we're going to bop it on over to Claude. So let's get to it. All right. Okay. Welcome. Welcome. I'm wondering, I do have it. Let's see if you can hear it. I have no idea if you can or not. I hope you can. Someone sound off in the chat for me. But quick recap for anyone who missed last week. Tim introduced what he's calling the agentic spectrum, this idea that there's a progression from prompting to structuring to delegating. And he used this lunch analogy that I obviously absolutely loved. It's not his first time he's talked through AI and analogies. He really likes lunch. He likes orchestras. I don't know. I think that one might have come from our friend Matt Henry here, but all in all, it's always a fun day when Tim's thinking of different metaphors. So the lunch analogy he used, making lunch for your kid is prompting. You're doing the work, teaching your kid how to make the lunch is the structuring, right? You're building the system. Letting your kid make lunch while you're at work, that's delegation. That's the end of the spectrum, right? So once again, making lunch for your kid, that's prompting. You're doing the work. Teaching your kid to make the lunch, structuring. You're building the system. Letting your kid make lunch while you're not there, that's delegation. Altogether, workflow to agentic end of the spectrum. His whole point was the further you move along that spectrum, the more clearly you have to define what you actually want. This is something Tim and I really struggle with together because we both want like team members to help with what we do and things. And we get to the point where if you have enough detail to explain it to a team member and have them do it perfect, you're just this close to being able to automate it in an agentic workflow. And so we really struggle between the two there. And so it's a little bit crazy, right? Like you can definitely be vague when you're doing the work yourself, but you cannot be vague when you're handing it off. And that's exactly where we're picking up today. We are going to live in that middle space, the structuring part, because this month is Agentic April. And before anyone builds an agent, you need to know how to build a workflow that works when you're watching it. I've got my camera in a perfect spot so I can like kind of read some of my notes, but then I have to like, whoop. Don't you guys just love it? All of the honesty here. All right. I've got a 4-step playbook, a live demo, and a checklist you're going to be able to take home. Tim's going to be back next week and he's going to push us further along that spectrum. But today we're going to build that foundation. I am so excited to show you the playbook. Also, Megan, I put it up there, but it is wonderful to see you again. Always a good time to have Megan in the crowd. All right, so here's what I want to be really clear up front. What we're building today is a workflow. I know, I promised you agents, you're going to get them, but I do want to name that today we're talking in workflow. This is not an autonomous agent that goes and does things while you sleep. One, most of our nonprofit subscriptions, unless you have a heightened subscription, just isn't going to allow for that anyway. Those tools. Additionally, if you aren't continually enhancing your ability to curate really clean workflows, those agents will not have clean instructions to work from, right? So this is you sitting at your computer, triggering something that's been built well enough that the output is actually useful, right? Like you're still in the chair, you're still watching. And that's the point. Because, like I said, if you can't get it to work well when you're watching, you've got no business letting it run when you're not. Um, Before I get started though, let me know who's watching here. I always love to hear kind of like who's in the crowd, what's going on, different things like that. I don't know. It just helps me feel a little less like solo on days that Tim's out. So if anything, I love having Megan in the crowd helping me out here. So so excited to be here. We've got the 4 steps and I'm gonna show you. It says to switch to scene 3 in my notes, which is laughable because I already did. I wanted to show you guys early and in advance, right? This is the whole playbook though, right? 4 steps: scope, context, constraints, checkpoint, debug. Whoops. Scope, context, and constraints, checkpoint, debug. We could probably make it 5 steps, but context and constraints you'll see are kind of together. So we're going to go ahead and go through each one together, right? So you see up here, I wonder, there's got to be a way to do like a little pointer on Restream. I'm going to figure that out someday so I can do a little like pointer up here for everybody. But anyway, in the meantime, oh, look at that. Oh, it didn't do it. Okay. Sorry. Before you build anything, before you open Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, any of the above, before you write a single instruction, you need to answer one question, right? Like, what is the one thing, one thing this does? Not 3, not handle my donor communications, 1. Tim's lunch analogy from last week, the kid isn't making dinner, doing dishes, and packing lunch. The kid's packing lunch. That's the scope, right? Here's a nonprofit example. Let's say you work in development and you send donor acknowledgement emails every week. Megan, sound familiar? You don't scope this as a manage my donor relationships. You manage the scope as a draft a weekly thank you for emails, draft a weekly thank you email for donors who gave under $500. That's it. One task, one output. And here's the test. If you can't describe what it does in one sentence, it's too big. Break it down further. Guys, that is so hard for me. You've seen me prompt on this show. I just audio dump. And that if you like me struggle with that, that's where Tim's promptinator really comes in handy. It'll obviously be more than one sentence, but it's got some really strong context and constraints for you. And it really helps get specifics into your prompts in a very like clear cut way. Um, I promise you the number one reason workflows produce garbage is that they're asked to do too much at once. And I'm saying that from absolute experience, unfortunately. You wouldn't hand a new employee 6 tasks on day 1 with no context and expect great work. Same rules apply here. Doing a quick check-in in the chat. Daniel, it is wonderful to have you. Brazil. Oh my gosh. My curtains are closed right now because sometimes the sun just like peers into my eyes. But I do think I've actually got some sun to rival you today. I'm not tired. I just always like yawn on Zoom, and usually I've got Tim talking to like cover it up. Today I don't, so here we are. It's so nice to have you, Daniel, and Megan. I'm glad that that example landed with you. Absolutely. All right. So, step 1, like I said, what is the one thing that this does, right? Step 2, context and constraints. These are 2 different things, and most people only do one of them. I'm going to be honest, I'm really good at context. I'm pretty bad at constraints. I get worried about the sort of negative loop. There's a better term for it, but basically where when you say don't do this thing, it wasn't it's kind of like a toddler, right? Like, oh, it wasn't thinking of that, but now that you've said it, it is maybe thinking of that. I once read about that as an issue in AI and like it stuck with me. And so I sort of just like have been really bad at constraints, right? Uh but context, it's what the AI needs to know to do the job. Think of it like onboarding a new team member. What would you tell a new person if their first day was or if their first task on their first day was this task, right? Remember it's one task. What is all the context this person would need to be able to do that, right? So for our donor email example, that's our organization's voice and tone, the template structure we use, the data it's working with, maybe donor name, gift amount, date, fund, designation, who the email is from. There's probably a few more here and there, but generally speaking, there's your context. The constraints are what it's not allowed to do. This is the part that everyone skips, like I said, particularly semis. And it's the part that matters most, right? For that exact same example, never reference the donor's past giving history unless it's provided. Never promise specific future outcomes from their gift. Never include the donor's email or never include the donor's mailing address in the email body. Always include the tax deductible language, right? So it's not just don't do these things, it is here are the things that are required or required to stay out. Here's how I think about it going back to Tim's lunch analogy, right? Context is here's where the bread is, here's where the peanut butter is, how to make a sandwich in this house, this is how we do it. Constraints are don't use the bread with the green spots, don't put the sandwich in a trash bag, don't give your sister a peanut butter sandwich because she is slightly allergic to peanuts, right? Those are some of the constraints and context. Without context, the AI doesn't know what to do. And without constraints, the AI doesn't know what not to do. And the failures are almost always within the what not to do category. It almost always over pleases is what it's trying to do. And like I said, if I'm being so for real, like this is where I mess up too all of the time. Like I could even write like the most beautiful prompt with a great context and then completely forget to tell the three things that would make the output actually usable for me in my specific situation. And you guys have seen me do that here in life. So I don't know that I have to prove that to you. Moving on to step 3, we've got checkpoint. Where does a human check the work, right? You'll also hear this as human in the loop. Uh, it all it means is where does a real person look at the output before it goes anywhere, right? In a workflow, which is what we're building today, the checkpoint is kind of built in. You're right there, you triggered it, you're reading the output, you decide what to do with it. That is the checkpoint, right? So that's kind of what we're doing today. The human is always in the loop. But here's where I want you to think about it intentionally anyway, or here's why I want you to think about it intentionally anyway, because the goal over time is to move along that spectrum Tim showed us last week. And when you start moving toward delegation, toward things that run on a schedule or a trigger automatically, you need to have already decided where that checkpoint lives. So even today, while you're sitting right in front there, watching the output, I want you to ask, if this ran without me, where would I want it to stop and say, hey, is this right? Where do I want it to stop and ask me to look? Simple rule. If the output touches a human being outside your organization, a donor, a client, a funder, a board member, there's a checkpoint before it goes out. Period. Right? That's the easiest one. For our donor email, the AI drafts it, you read it, you send it, that's the middle step. You read it, that's the checkpoint. Obvious today. Critical tomorrow when the tool gets more autonomous. And here's a bonus. Train the AI to help you with the checkpoint. You guys know I'm obsessed with asking the AI to help me do something better, right? You can literally put in your instructions, flag anything you're uncertain about. If you made an assumption, tell me. That way, even the review step gets easier because the AI is pointing you to the parts that need your eyes, right? So the AI is saying like, "Oh, I made an assumption here, or I guessed here, etc." Right? Step 4, plan for when it breaks. Not if, when, right? Your first version is going to be bad. That's normal. First version is always bad. It's expected. It's not failure, that's just the process, right? What does Tim say? We don't have like something bad didn't happen. It was just something unexpected, I think is how he phrases it. The question isn't like, did it work perfectly the first time? The question is, can I figure out where it went wrong and fix it? Which is why scoping and constraints matter so much. When your workflow is one clear task with explicit constraints, debugging is easy. Think in like uh, scientific methodology, right? Where you've got multiple variables and you only change one variable at a time. So you can be very clear what is affecting what as close as possible, like as much as you can, right? You look at the output, you compare it to your instructions, and you find the gap. Oh, I told it to use a warm tone, but I didn't define what warm means for our organization. That's why it sounds like a Hallmark card, right? When your workflow is six tasks mushed together with vague instructions, you have no idea what broke or where. You just know the output is bad and you don't know which lever to pull. I will say, again, I'm notorious for throwing too much into one script and one prompt. And so sometimes if I've done that before I have to start over one by one, I will say, hey, I threw too much at you. Here's what was unexpected about that output. Can you help me figure out where it went wrong? Right. And you can do that with your singular scope as well. So here's the iteration pattern. Pretty simple. Run it, read the output, find where it went off track. See, I told you. I don't understand. I'm not tired. run it, read the output, find where it went off track, go back to your instructions, fix that specific thing, one variable at a time, run it again, repeat, right? That's the whole debugging, like that's it. That's the whole that's the whole process, right? It's not glamorous, but every time you do it, you're learning something about how the AI interprets your instructions. And that knowledge, I mean, that's what makes you ready for more complex workflows later. Your 5th version will be good. Your 10th version will be the one you trust. And when you trust it enough to stop watching every output, that's when you're becoming, or like that's when you're moving along the spectrum and that workflow starts becoming something more. That's like goosebumpy, you guys. How fun is that? All right. I'm going to fill the screen again for just a little bit here. Um but yeah, that's the playbook we built for today, right? So 4 steps: scope the task, structure the context and constraints, design your checkpoint, and plan for when it breaks. It's not an agent playbook, it's a workflow playbook. And I know it's agentic April, but I'm telling you, the best agents are built off of the absolute best workflows. And that's the whole point, right? Here's why that matters. A well built workflow is an agent in training, and you don't skip the training, right? Everything we do in the demo after the break, which is also me for what it's worth. Usually I get it handed off to Tim. We're going to use these four steps. You're going to watch me build it live in Gemini. And I want you to follow along if you can. So open up Gemini, open up a gem, and let's do this together. Like I said, that's the playbook. This is the part where it gets fun and we get to build it live. Before we do that, I do want to call out on our little break here. I'm trying to find my Promptinator link. Oh, I wonder if I have it up here. Well, let's talk about AI Club at first. So we've got waitlist coming available for the AI Club, which is a group of like-minded individuals through the human stack where we discuss like it's still sort of being formed, but it'll be launched here in the next couple of months. And so make sure you scan the QR code on your screen and jump on into the waitlist while you can. Once it fills up, I have no idea what his number is, but I know there's a couple hundred people on this list already, which is awesome. Make sure your name's on there before that wait list closes. So just want to make note of that. And then I do want to give one more shout out. We talk about this a lot, but go ahead, go check out AI Cred. That's where uh, you can test your fluency in AI. So what we teach here on AI for Anyone Live is literacy, how to use the tools in front of you, sort of learning from the high level academic side. If we are the 101, your fluency is where you start developing in that 201. And certainly Jonathan Edwards, who is a friend of the live stream, he comes on pretty often. Well, not pretty often, but he's been on quite a bit these last couple of months. And he works closely with Nate Jones, another one that we partner with quite often, and just super like the AI cred is one that took me a minute to understand what I was doing, but it's a evaluation like no other because it is not take this survey and do this thing. You have to have a full conversation in 6 different topics, and then it sort of combines all of your things together and gives you an AI cred score and then builds a fluency education module or multiple modules for you to improve your fluency score based on you specifically. And so it's just very unique, and I've been very impressed with those that I've heard and seen um, learn from it. So join me and Tim and others on AI cred. Tim was number 1 for quite a while. He's finally been like dethroned. So excited to finally have him humbled a little bit. Um, Megan says, I'm stoked to follow this in Gemini because my team is working in there, even if I am mostly in Claude. Yay. Oh, I'm so excited about that, Megan. I think full disclosure, and Tim and I talk about this a lot with our smaller group that Megan's also in. I use Claude more than almost anything else these days. But this show got its start on Gemini for a reason, and it's because it is the most accessible way to adopt AI across your organization securely, safely, and uniformly, and frankly, like affordably. And so I'm glad to bring us back to Gemini a little bit today. So I'm super grateful that you are enjoying it as well. Let's get on back to our show here, right? So this is the part where it gets fun. We're going to build a gem in Gemini using the playbook we just walked through. I'm going to show you what happens when you skip the constraints and what happens when you add them. I would highly encourage, like, have Gemini open, follow along. If you're just watching, that's obviously totally fine too. I'm gonna walk through every step, so you'll be a-okay there. Let's see, I gotta switch to I had it sharing my screen at one point. Sad day. Mm, here we go. There we go. All right. I believe you can all see my screen. This will be fun to try and like coordinate. Usually I have Tim to like distract you all while I'm trying to do the next piece. We gotta love it, huh? All right. We're gonna build a gem in Gemini using the playbook we just walked through. Then I'm gonna show you what happens when you skip the constraints and what happens when you add them, right? If you've got it, like I said, open it up, follow along with us. We're gonna start with step one, which is scope, one task, one output, right? So step one, that's the one thing that this gem does. Draft a donor thank you email. That's it. One task, one output. You can see I've already set up a gem with the basics. Donor name is a thank you email, and I put no guardrails just so that way I can differentiate. Um, let's you write donor thank you emails for a nonprofit organization. Did it? Okay, look at that. I'm using something called Whisperflow that lets me talk to my computer. It makes it a lot easier. You write donor thank you emails for a nonprofit organization. The organization is called Riverside Community Foundation. They support youth programs, food access, and emergency assistance in the greater metro area. When given a donor's name and gift amount, write a warm thank you email from the executive director. So it knows who the organization is. It knows it's writing thank you emails. It knows the email comes from the ED. That's the context. That's step two, right? So at least the first half of step two, it's got the context that we need. Got that loaded. You've got this kind of here, right? Okie dokie. I'm going to save this gem, start a chat, and I've got a pre-saved one here. So we've got donor name is Margaret Thornton. She gave $250 to the general fund. She's a first-time donor and she found us through a Facebook post about the food pantry. And I'm even going to update it to maybe a thinking. So the different models here, we're not doing advanced math or code, so no need, but thinking might be helpful here. So let's see what we've got here. Thank you for your generous gift to Riverside Community Foundation. Whoa, this is long. Pleased to learn that you found us through our recent Facebook post. I love that it called that out. It's wonderful to see our digital community translate into real world impact. I mean, look, it's not bad, right? I don't know that I would call this usable, not completely usable. It's too long. It can feel a little generic, right? Like, and I don't know, like your contribution comes at a vital time. Why did it pull that? Like, what about this screamed vital time, right? I don't know if you guys caught that, but it's just weird. Like it's referencing something like that, and we never told it. And this is exactly what happens without constraints, right? The AI fills in the gaps with its best guess, and its best guess is like never your organization's truth. This is really important when you want your organization to trust the output that your colleagues and you are able to use to do through AI, right? So this might feel like, well, yeah, but I could just review this and update it. Absolutely. But you could also just write the email. What this is doing is you're trying to figure out a way to put the right constraints in place and the right context and only constraints and context that allow your leaders, your colleagues, and your donors to trust that this is the organization that they're buying into, right? So comes at a vital time might flag something that I don't trust because this isn't a vital time for our organization, right? Like this is just a time. It's not really anything big, right? So I want to know what it would look like if we were to add constraints, right? So we're going to go back, we're going to create a new gem. So you go to gems, we're going to create a new gem. I'm going to say donor thank you email constrained, right? And I think it can have the exact same description. You write donor thank you emails for a nonprofit organization. Here, let me close this. Oh, sorry, dogs are barking. Right now, I'm in a live stream for the next 20 minutes. Hi, friends. I'm back. I really hope that my friends who are helping with the editing cut out my panic at the end of all of that. I want to give us, for those of you who don't know and who are like watching this after the fact and don't realize, there's construction going on at my boyfriend's house, which is where I am at currently. And so there's part of me that is super annoyed that this happened. There's the other part of me that knows that his rightful response is, why are you doing reliable work at my house while I'm doing construction on my house? So I'm gonna give the dub to him and shake it off. I'm gonna record the rest of the session here for you all just to make sure that we get that out there for everyone because truly, goal number one, candidly, for AI for Anyone Live for Tim and I is a chance to is sort of like a mental health release for us. And then goal number two is to teach everybody that listens something fun and new about AI and responsible beneficial use of it. And so I want to make sure that I still achieve that today, even if I am annoyed. So where we left off, I'm going to share my screen here if I can. Let's see. I've never done the pre-record like this or the record like this before. Yeah, and if you ever needed evidence that we are live, if that doesn't tell you, I don't know what would. So, okay, we had just created our sort of like okay donor letter thank you or donor email thank you with our without constraints gem, right? And so we're going to go back and we're going to build another gem, right? So new gem, let's call this one donor thank you email constrained, right? And I'm going to use the exact same descriptor, which is you write donor thank you emails for a nonprofit organization. Here, let me make my screen a little easier to see. Okay, so we're going to get through and do this kind of like piece by piece, right? So first, let's talk about length because that last one was super long. Emails need to be 100 to 150 words, like no exception. That alone is going to fix half of our problem. So let me see here. What do I got? Oh, now my boyfriend texts me that the internet's back on. How kind of you. What inconvenient timing. You know what I mean? Just inconvenient. It's okay. All right. So for the instructions, you write donor thank you emails for Riverview Community Foundation, a nonprofit supporting youth programs, food access, and emergency assistance in the greater metro area. Right? So that's sort of the first piece. Context, you write as the executive director with a warm but professional tone. Donors range from first-time givers to longtime supporters, and emails go out within 48 hours of being processed. So there's a little bit of the context, right? The task we're asking it. Task, when given a donor name, gift amount. Oops, sorry. I jumped around on my little like cheat sheet here, and so I wanted to make sure that I pull us right back. Okay, so back to here, task. Start over. When given a donor name, gift amount, and gift type, general, restricted, or anonymous, write a thank you email. Simple enough task. Constraints. Emails must be 100 to 150 words, no exceptions. That's the first one we talked about, right? Now, next one, the important one. Well, they're all important, but next, I want no cliches. Like, don't use your generous gift, make a difference, change lives, some of that piece. It's just not my favorite. Do not use the phrases your generous gift, make a difference, or change lives. They're overused. Find fresher language. Now, an important one is like don't mention specific program outcomes or statistics unless they're provided. So let's kind of include that guy in here. Do not mention specific program outcomes or statistics unless they're provided. Do not invent impact claims. This is the constraint that prevents it from making stuff up. I wonder if I should put that last part in there. In my mind, maybe. but I don't think we should. So we'll remove that little guy, huh? All right. Next, let's talk through the variation of gifts, right? For gifts under $100, warm, professional, and brief. No need to reference programs specifically. For gifts $100 to $999, mention one program area that aligns with their gift if specified. For gifts $1,000 or more, flag this output with bracket major donor, review before sending, bracket at the top. Make sure that very much stands out. So what's awesome here is it what this is doing is it allows you to tier out and segment your stewardship in a way that allows folks to expect a little more if they give a little more, but they're still getting a genuine human response no matter the level that they're at. You're saying, hey, major donors, they need to be like double checked. You're writing in that human in the loop review before you even worry about anything else, right? So it like is an extra flag and big egg on your face if you send it out with that piece, right? So for anonymous donors, let's address the email "Dear friend" and don't reference any personal connection. This kind of allows them to know that, like, hey, we get it. We saw that you're anonymous. We want you to know that, hey, we'll keep it that way and we won't, we'll do that throughout our information here. I apologize. Now I'm just nervous and oh gosh. So that's, one of the well, and I should say, and I've got my nice little designs here that we're kind of into step 3, right? Which is the checkpoint. So for major donors, review that for there's probably a check for restricted gifts. For restricted gifts, acknowledge the rest restriction by name. Do not redirect to general programs. Hopefully we can all see the benefit of that. And last but not least, I think one last thing to add is if you are missing required information, list what you need instead of guessing, right? So that is a great sort of catch all checkpoint that allows us to sort of get everything together. And then, we went from what was a very short deal to quite a developed instruction set here. And you can always use Gemini to rewrite instructions. That's another great hack. Today, I'm going to leave it as is. Default tool, you don't need to worry about because we're not necessarily doing anything but creating language with this. And knowledge is where you could add extra context. So maybe your brand voice, brand guidelines, sample letters, but be careful with that because you don't want it to essentially rip and repeat, etc. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to use that exact same uh, donor with the exact same example, right? So we've got Margaret Thornton, $250, general fund, first time donor, found us through Facebook, post about the food pantry. So let's see what we've got here. Thank you. I love that. Thank you for your support, Margaret. Dear Margaret, it was a pleasure to see your name among our recent supporters at Riverview Community Foundation. We noticed you found us through our social media outreach regarding the food pantry, and I'm so glad you decided to take action. Your contribution to our general fund provides flexible resources we need to maintain our food access initiatives and other vital services throughout the metro area. As a first-time donor, you're helping us strengthen the local safety net that so many of our neighbors rely on during difficult times. We are honored that you chose to invest in our mission. Your trust in our work ensures that we can continue showing up for this community every day. Thank you for your kindness and for being part of the Riverview family. Ooh, I love that. Okay, this is great. I want to stress test it though. So let's do an anonymous donor. Gift amount of $500. The gift type is restricted to the youth summer programs, and the notes of the donor requested no personal acknowledgement. Let's see what it gives us here. Dear friend. Okay, so it followed that constraint. Thank you for your contribution. We've received and per your request have designated these funds specifically to our youth summer programs. This is what it does. We deeply respect your preference for anonymity and have noted that no further personal acknowledgement is required. Okay. I personally can't decide what I would do if a donor said no personal acknowledgement at all, right? Because I feel like this is still a personal acknowledgement, but I think this does a good job of pulling out like, "Hey, we get it. You asked for anonymity. You won't hear from us again on this. I just wanted to let you know, like, we got it and we did put it to the right stuff." Which I kind of think is awesome. So I absolutely love that. Um, let's try another one. I've got a scenario here I put down sort of at the bottom of my notes that's more of like that major gift one. So let's see that. We've got a family gift. They gave $5,000 to the Emergency Assistance Fund, and it's a tribute in memory of Eleanor Hendricks. And note that it doesn't really like give us example, like it doesn't tell us who's what, right? Like who's Eleanor to the Hendricks family, etc. I think you can make the assumption that they're related, but that's it. Let's see. A meaningful tribute from the family. Major donor review. Perfect. It's got that right up top like we wanted it to. Um oh my gosh, yes, that's the gem saying like, "Hey, this one's important. You need to look at this before it goes anywhere. On behalf of the Riverview Community Foundation, I wanted to express my deepest gratitude. Da 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 da. Love all of that. As you requested, they're restricted to our this fund. This significant commitment. We are honored to receive this tribute in memory of Eleanor Hendricks. It's a moving way to celebrate her legacy within our community. Ooh, love. Um, I do think there are some gender assumptions and a few things there that maybe it could ask. Um, but all in all, I'm actually really impressed with that one, right? So, um, but if we wanted, right, if together we were like, I wanted to always ask about genders or use gender neutral language, etc. That's step 4, right? You find the gap between what you told it and what it did, and you find that one instruction, adjust it and run it again. Like that's the cycle, right? So we may add a constraint of don't assume gender, always use gender neutral language or ask for additional information with, from the user before assuming gender, right? It's a great example. But this is what's so awesome about this, right? Like this is how you build a workflow that you can trust. And my mind goes to actually here, let me now adding constraints was not what was supposed to be on there, but that's okay. My mind actually goes to the next step is now that you've got like once you have this workflow set up the way that it feels comfortable, we move it into a Google Sheets where you can use Gemini in mass, right? And so I'm going to show you this wasn't actually part of what I'd planned to do, but I think I'm going to show it to you live here. So let's go back to my scene where I share my screen. Okay. So I'm going to take a chat. I'm going to copy all of my scenarios that I'd pre-created and I'm going to have them put it in a table for me, right? Okay, so take the following and put them in a table to help demonstrate that was wrong. Put them in a table. That's all. Include another 10 sample data on top of this. Sure, right? Let's have it give me some donation records overview, right? So the name, the gift type, and the notes. Love, love, love. Okay, I'm going to export this. Oh, it's a small. I love this. Quick professional tip. Since you have a trigger, most fundraising systems suggest flagging any gift over a certain threshold for a personal phone call. Oh, that's so fun, you guys. How unique. Anyway, so I'm going to export this to Sheets. Creating spreadsheet. Let's see. Need to share this tab instead. Okay. So now here's what's awesome. We can add Gemini, generate text, AI prompt. I'm going to take that same instructions, the working version, right? I wonder if you could use a gem. We'll have to test that out another day. Okay. So then you need a comma, and then this is the range. Enter. Ugh, error. What was my error? Formula parse error. AI. This. Oh. It doesn't like the quotes in my, as you can see here. Yeah. So I'm just adjusting the quotes in the prompt that I'd had. So that way it doesn't get confused here, right? So instead of it saying, quote, dear friend, I'm just using the apostrophe. So it's got some of that. And then if I hit enter, it's generating. And now you guys, look at that. I now was able to generate what started as, and this is where now I am, how do I explain this? We got to the point where we really liked it. Then what we did is say, okay, let's apply this en masse still manually. So this is still a manual workflow, but we're doing it en masse, right? Like we're doing this across multiple at a time. And now I'm going to go through and check all 14, 15, 16 of these. And if I don't see a consistent enough issue, I start to trust the system that I've set up. Maybe I'll do another 15 manually, another 15 manually. And then all of a sudden, I'm really trusting what the output is. Now it's time to make this more autonomous. How do I trigger it to say every time we just get this gift, it automatically goes to this agent now? It's no longer a prompt. It is an agent because you're saying automatically from here to here, do this thing. I'm not going to step in all the way until this is generated, right? That is where that autonomous piece comes from. And that's where that agentic workflow comes from. You're giving that assistant, that prompt, the opportunity to act without your interference. It's so cool. I love seeing this, right? Because then there's a whole piece of, there's another part of Gemini in Google that I think is really interesting. I wonder if I can try it here. How can I make each of the emails created here a draft in my Gmail? Can I automate that? How cool would it be if these just showed up as drafts in your Gmail? And then you go to your Gmail and just check, yep, I like this, edit this, hit send, edit this, hit send. And then once you get that perfected, then you get the next spot of, okay, now what I want to do is make sure it goes back to my CRM or this list and says sent when it's been sent. Turn the email content in your table into drafts. You can use the following script. Okay, so it gave me a script and just instructions. I am not going to worry about that today because that looks crazy. Oh, love this though, right? It's got missing recipient emails and major donor review. The script will still create a draft for this, allowing you to review your email drafts, automation by using the on open function. You've automated the setup so that any user can access the sheet and trigger a draft. That's crazy. It basically just gave you full instructions to do that. How can I make it so any that are flagged for major gift review show up red on this list? And don't go to the drafts until reviewed and that tag is removed. I wonder if it could do that. I have no idea. At this point, I'm off script now, which is very usual. I stayed on script a lot longer today than we usually do. Let's see what it pops up there, right? Okay, so while that's loading, I do want to show you all one last thing. Let's see. I created a nice little checklist for us. Oh, and it's up. So let's talk through that. Let's go through the checkbook and we'll sign off, huh? All right, so highlight major donors and update script. So it's saying, here's my plan. I'm going to add a conditional format rule using a custom formula to highlight rows in red. So now look at that. Any with that flagged major donor review, highlight in red. And to ensure these don't go to drafts until they're reviewed and the tag is removed, you can update the script this way. Once that removes, the row will lose its red highlight and the script will be able to process it the next time it runs. How cool is that, you guys? Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, so I wanna share this tab really quick. I created a little scoping checklist. We'll make sure it's available on thehumanstack.com. But basically, it's sort of the agent task scoping checklist, right? So, like we said, step 1, scope what's the one thing this does, gives you kind of like checklist. Can you do these things for this? Then you're good with step 1. Same with step 2, context and constraints. Step 3, checkpoint, where do I need to step in? And step 4, debug, do it all over again. Gave you some rule of thumb. So we'll make sure this is out there in some of our socials this week, along with thehumanstack.com. But with that, friends, I'm gonna sign off. I'm sure there's more I planned to cover, but today's been hectic enough and crazy enough. So I want to say thank you so, so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. Next week, Tim's going to be back and we're tackling the question nobody wants to ask, which is, are you still in charge? Right? We're calling it holding agency, how to keep human decision making and responsibility front and center while your agents do the work, right? So where do you stay in the loop? Where do people start sleepwalking through AI output? So all of that next Wednesday. Make sure you come with your workflows, come with the stuff that broke this week. Tim and I will dig into it live. And if you tried anything from today's playbook, bring that too. We want to see it. Until next week, stay curious, stay human. See you next Wednesday.